咏怀古籍
Remembering old times. I knew how Song Yu felt in autumn. His gallantry was my teacher. I looked at history and shed tears. We were the same, but of different times. His old abode now decorated rivers and mountains. Only his writings remained. His story about the king met a goddess in his dream was taken as true. The real palaces of Chu had been lost. The boatmen pointed them out without certainty. Peaks and crags gather at the Jingmen mountain. Concubine Ming's village still exists. She leaves the purple pavilion and reaches the desert. Her lone green tomb faces the dusk. Her beauty is lost because of an incorrect portrait. Her jade ornaments return with her spirit in the moonlight. 1,000 years of her pipa tell her sorrow in a foreign tune.
隔夜
Night in the chamber. It was the end of the year. The frost and snow covered cold nights. In the early morning the sound of the horn was gallant. The stars of the Milky Way waved in the Yangtze. 1,000 cries of families in the wilderness told of war and deaths. Ballads of the lost and gone minorities were heard on the river. The flying dragons and galloping stallions all came to dust. The news of loved ones was rare and scattered.
登高
Ascending alone. The wind rushed and the sky was high. The crying of the monkeys sad. The inlets were clear, the sandbars white, and the birds circled. The endless leaves fell in silence. The endless river ran east. 10,000 li was the wanderer lamenting autumn. 100 years of infirmity ended in climbing the pavilion alone. Hardship and sorrow whitened my hair. I was so sick that I recently stopped drinking wine.
八阵图
8 formation design. Zhu Ge's fame was known in 3 countries. The 8 formation in the river was his monument. It did not move when the torrents ran. Sad was his country of Shu, overtaken by the country of Wu.
江畔独步寻花七绝句
Seeking flowers by the river bank. In front of the yellow monk pagoda, the river runs east. Spring is lazy and leans on the breeze. A lone peach bloom is without an owner. Do you like its dark red or its pink? Lady Huang No. 4's flowers filled the path. Thousands and 10,000s of blossoms lowered the branches. The butterflies fluttered round and round. An oriole sang off and on.
真花青
For Huaqing. The flower city is full of music. Half goes with the wind on the river, half with the clouds. This piece belongs to heaven. The world hardly has a chance to listen.
江南逢李龟年
Meeting Lee Guanyan at the south of the Yangtze. We meet often at Prince Wang's place, and had greeted each other several times in Chui Ju's hall. It was spring at the south of the Yangtze. Imagine seeing you again at this falling flower season.
望玉
Looking at the mountain. What is Mount Tai? Its green ranges meander through the land of Qi and Lu. The peaks reach into heaven. Light and shadow are like the morning and the night at the north and the south side. The mists rising from the valleys fill one's thoughts. I will go to the top and look around and watch the other peaks under my feet turning small.
彭衙行
Escaping to Pangya. My family and I were running toward the north and arrived at midnight in Pangya. The moon was shining on the white water mountain. We had walked all the way and were dead tired. The birds were chirping in the valley, and we couldn't see any travelers. My little daughter was hungry and bit me. When she heard the howling of the wolves and the crying of the tiger, she was frightened and stopped. I carried her in my arms and put my hand to her mouth. Then she struggled and cried louder. My little boy was begging for sour plums. There were 5 days of rain and thunder in the 10-day journey. The road was muddy. We'd held on to one another and walked. We had no rain gear, and our clothing was thin. The cold was hard to bear. In the mornings we stepped on sand and pebbles and walked on the river beds. At night we slept in the barren fields. We stayed at Dongjia for a few days. Then we went north from the Luzi Pass. My good friend Sun Tsai was a saint. He took us in when the day was already dark. He lit the lamps and opened the gates and ordered servants to heat water for us to wash our feet. He gave orders to cut papers and scatter them to call back our souls. Then I asked my wife and children to meet him. His family and my family looked at one another and cried. Soon my children were fast asleep. I woke them up to eat. My friend Sun Tsai said he and I would be brothers forever, and he prepared his living quarters for us to stay. Where could you find a friend like that? A year had passed. The war was still going on. How could I fly and drop in front of him and say hello?